Second. Everything is good. Can you hear me good, Ryan?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'd like to welcome everybody to Episode 8, Week 9 of the Drop the Gloves podcast. I'm your host, Paul Leary, and I'm joined here by the man himself, Mr. Ryan Berhar. Would you like to say anything, Ryan?
Hello, everyone. Hope everyone's doing great.
Yeah, I hope so too. And just a quick shout out to our sponsor, our first sponsor here on the show, ActUp Athletics. Anybody looking for any jersey needs, college and NFL, ActUp Athletics is the way to go. Just go ahead and tell them that you come from the Drop the Gloves podcast. You can hit me up and I'll send you any link. And my discount will get you any NFL or college jersey you're looking for specifically for $75. Yes, that's right. Get it live here from the Drop the Gloves podcast. I got my Ohio State jersey in this past week from there, and it is absolutely phenomenal. But we're going to go ahead and move on now to a recap of Week 7, Ryan.
Okay.
And first game, Coastal Carolina gets upset by Appalachian State 30-27.
Ah, that hurts.
Yeah, that definitely hurts.
Yeah, they needed to win.
They needed to, and they did not. They did not. But their playoff hopes were very slim anyway.
Yeah.
Now, next game here, Thursday night game, we had Tulane playing SMU. SMU covered the 14-point spread with a 55-26 win. SMU remains perfect on the season at 7-0. Tulane 1-6. Tulane travels to Cincinnati this week, but Tanner Mordecai of SMU looked really good.
Yeah, I mean, SMU rising up the rankings. Mordecai has entered some Heisman discussion. So
yeah, he's an Oklahoma transfer.
Mm-hmm.
Now, next game, Ryan, Michigan covers the 23.5-point spread with a 33-7 victory over Northwestern, and the Wolverines moved to 7-0.
Yeah, I mean they're impressive this year. I mean, you probably have more to say than I do about that one, but they're a great team.
I think they're horrible, but
I know you. Yeah.
So Cincinnati traveled to Navy and faced off against the triple option, and they had their first scare of the season. Cincinnati escaped with a win, 27-20. The 7-0 Bearcats, didn't really execute to their best potential. Navy definitely covered the 28.5-point spread, but the difference is, here's why I think Navy won, overall a lot more battles than they should have. Cincinnati's strength comes from their secondary. They have two of the top corners in the country. Sauce Gardner is the best corner in the country. And when you only throw the ball for less than 10 times a game and you're able to find success in the running game, you're completely taking Cincinnati's strength out of it. And that's what the triple option did. And eventually, and it had to catch up to them, though. Cincinnati went up in this game 27-13. And after that, did you see the end of this game? Like the, what's it called? The onside kick?
I did not, no.
So Navy was down 27-20 and recovered the onside kick.
Wow, okay.
But do you know what came back to bite them? Their first throw that they had to do in overtime was intercepted. So, it kind of, proved that. Another thing, we'll get to the rankings about it, but I wanted to talk more about, you know what's going on with Cincinnati, maybe a little bit, more
Yeah. Do
here in the rankings.
you think this hurts them at all?
I think it definitely raises questions, but I don't think it affected the committee as much. I think they're going to let them escape by with this because it's the only one that they've had.
Because
What the? Hello? Ryan? Ryan?
Oh, there's two of us. This
There's two Ryans in here. Ryan? How have you been, Ryan?
Great, Ryan.
I know, right? Did we lose Berhar, Ryan?
No, I can hear both of you, maybe.
Ryan Berhar, I can't hear him.
Can you hear me, Paul?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, that's weird. I heard him a second ago.
Yeah. Let me try calling him and then adding him. Ryan? 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 Let me see if I can hear it on here. So this Ryan I can hear, right? Hello?
I can hear you.
You can hear me? Can you hear other Ryan?
Not yet.
I can't hear him either.
Now I'm just confused.
I'm also very confused.
He was talking immediately when I joined, and then he just went silent.
Yeah, I know. So you don't have... Did you see the spread for the Ohio State-Penn State game?
Not yet, but I can look right now.
It's 18 and a half.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me after last week.
Like, oh my.
I'll talk about when we actually talk about the Illinois game, about like how I now feel going to the Ohio State game if you want.
Yeah, definitely. Ryan Berhar? Ryan Berhar. Can you hear him, Ryan?
No. Does he have push to talk on by accident?
He might. How do you... Well, he's on his mobile.
Oh. Huh? I think mobile can still do push to talk.
can you hear me?
Yes. Perfect. So, Ryan Berhar, let me update you. This here is my friend. His name is also Ryan. And he goes to Penn State.
I'm just going to absolutely trash Penn State. It's going to be
So
great.
he wanted to come on here to talk about Penn State's 9 overtime game with Illinois and their outlook on facing Ohio State this week. Are you cool with that, Ryan?
Yeah.
All right, so Moss Doc, go ahead and take away. I'll let you. I'll preface the game, I guess. Penn State gets upset at home, and 9 overtimes, the longest game in FBS history, to Illinois. They dropped to 5-2 on the year. Illinois covered the 24.5-point spread, obviously, and I'll let you take it over now.
Yeah, so I mean, this is just an absolute awful game. I guess Penn State's in the record book no matter what, but they're on the losing end of that record, so not one they want. But I mean, from the very beginning of this game, I mean, it was just awful. The weather started out poor, and you knew that was going to be an issue because you couldn't. It was wet, it was damp, you couldn't throw the ball. But just looking at some stats here, I mean, Illinois had 395 total yards compared to Penn State's 227. And as everyone knows, they just completely dominated the game. They ran all over Penn State. Penn State could not adapt on either side of the ball. Illinois would, on offense, they would run constant, not hook and laterals, but they would just run constant screens to the outside and just Illinois must have been averaging 5 or 6 yards a carry, and it was absolutely ridiculous. Penn State's defense just could not adapt, could not stop them to save their lives. And I don't think Illinois, you know better than I do, Paul, but they didn't have like a really big known running back going into this game, did they? Like this
No.
kid wasn't anything special.
No,
So
the one thing I wanted to point out, though, was you were talking about the defense, but other Ryan, you might agree with me on this, but usually you would think their 9 overtimes would be higher than 20 to 18.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
kind of funny because they were like, I mean, they were just neither scoring on those 2-point conversions just over and over and over. It's like
Right.
crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I could talk about the overtime in a second, but I want to talk real quick about in Penn State on the offensive side. So obviously their defense couldn't adapt at all, but on the offensive side, I mean, Penn State couldn't run the ball to save their life on Saturday, and Illinois knew that. Illinois was constantly putting, 3 guys on the line only, and we're dropping 8 back, and I mean, Sean Clifford had absolutely no one to throw to at all because you had just 8 guys back, and they just weren't adapting. They weren't changing at all. Whenever you see, 3 guys on the line and all those people dropped, you're not going to find an open man. Every man's going to be, double covered. And Penn State just was not doing that. They were not reading Illinois' defense because Illinois had them just, were reading them like a book. Penn State throws the ball, and they force them to throw the ball into bad situations time and time
Were you at the
again.
game?
I was at the game. Yes, I stayed the whole time in the cold, damp rain, and my heartbeat at the end of the I have an Apple Watch, and my heartbeat, I was checking it at each overtime, got up to like 190 BPM in the ninth overtime. But yeah, I mean, offensively and defensively, Illinois played perfect. I mean, they had Penn State's number. They knew exactly what to do on offense. They knew exactly what to do on defense. And Penn State did not at all. Their coaches did not adapt on either side of the ball. So, I mean, Penn State just got completely out-coached. Now, you wanted to talk about the overtime with, 9 overtimes. The weird thing about this overtime was Illinois, during the regular, the first 4 quarters. But whenever they got to overtime, they barely tried to run the ball. They were trying to pass the ball and do screen passes and stuff. It was weird because Illinois was picking up, 5-6 yards a carry average during regulation. You would have thought they'd go back to what was working for them in overtime, and they just didn't. So it was interesting to see Illinois change their game plan that was working the whole time, and it went way longer than I thought it would because Illinois could have easily picked up those 3 yards after once you get to those 2-point conversions, and they just weren't. Both teams, the first overtime had drop passes, and then after that, I mean, no one even really got close to scoring. So it was an interesting overtime. It was an absolute
You're part of
garbage
history.
game.
I gotta say, you were at the longest game in college football history.
Exact. I don't know if it's the longest lengthwise, like actual time, but number of overtimes, certainly. They are forever in the record books as the team that lost in the most ever overtime. So I guess that's the one for the record books. But I don't know if you wanted to talk about anything else before. I'll talk about, going into the Ohio State game.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that. Were you at the whiteout? I'm assuming you were.
I was at the whiteout. Yes.
So, like, you've been in what grade are you at Penn
I'm a
State
senior.
now? You're a
so-
senior now, right? Yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
I've seen 2 whiteouts or 3 whiteouts since obviously we weren't allowed in the stadium last year. Against Ohio State, my freshman year, which is when Penn State blew that fourth quarter lead with less than 10 minutes to go. I think they were up like
That was against Dwayne
2
Haskins.
scores.
I remember.
Yeah, they blew that one. My sophomore year, they won against Michigan. That was a game that they, had in hand the whole time. It was a close game, but Penn State kind of controlled that. And then this year against Auburn at home, again, I think it was a 10-point game or an 8-point game. It was something close, but again, Penn State kind of had control of that the whole game.
Yeah.
And, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about with going into Ohio State next week.
Yeah, I was at the Ohio State Penn State 2019 game at the shoe. So I guess they both got a little different experiences, but this is a pretty big game for both schools, and I just want to get your outlook on it as, a student and a fan of Penn State, because going into, I would even say last week after the Iowa game, we talked about it on the show, you guys proved that you were even the better team than Iowa, even after that. But how much has your confidence changed after this Illinois game?
Well, that's the problem is I don't know which Penn State team's going to show up next week at all. You've had the Penn State team that played, Wisconsin to start the year. They looked strong at Wisconsin. Great defense, and their offense looked good, or maybe not great's the right word, but they looked good. Against Auburn, they looked good at their whiteout game. Against Iowa, I think everyone, probably is in agreement that had Sean Clifford not gotten injured, they would have won that game, and their defense even looked as good as they could for that game. If that's the team that shows up next week against Ohio State, it'd be a close game. I always favor the home team just because, they're two good teams. Playing on the road's difficult. So I would have favored Ohio State regardless of what happened this past weekend at Illinois. But, I would have favored them maybe by, one score, anywhere from 3 to 7 points. But if the team that played Iowa or Illinois shows up, they will get blown out. They'll lose by 2+ scores, and I don't know which team is going to show up. Is kind of what happened in the Illinois game, where I now no longer know what to expect this coming Saturday. It could go either way at all.
Yeah, and we talked about it a little bit. The spread on that game is 18.5, and I thought me and Ryan were kind of prefacing it before we started the show. In my rankings and his rankings, we did not drop Penn State as far as the AP did, because I'm not really hurting them for the Iowa loss that much, because like we said, we all are in agreement that they were the better team. Their only loss to me, like, that stands out, obviously, is the Illinois game, and I think they dropped to 12 for me and 10 for Ryan, but they got punished by the AP and dropped to 20. And then the spread on this is 18.5 points.
Yeah, I mean, if they play like they played against Illinois, they'll be lucky to keep it within 18.5. I mean, my God, if Illinois was able to run all over Penn State the way they did, Ohio State will put up, 500, 600 offensive yards. Like I said, Penn State could not adapt at all this past weekend, and if a relatively bad team, do I even deserve to get the right to call Illinois bad if they beat Penn State? I don't know, but if a team that most people agree is not that great is able to do that against Penn State, a much better team like Ohio State will make it look even worse for Penn State. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, this is a point that I've made about the often, but Alabama A&M comes to mind, like, Oregon, Stanford, like we have in college football, teams play down to the competition on a pretty normal basis. And I think Penn State will be ready for Ohio State. I'm not going to pick them to win, but 18.5, like, I think this Illinois game was probably sort of a trap game. I mean, they were probably looking ahead.
Yeah, I think it's more of a
to a
fluke.
certain degree.
Yeah, I agree with you.
It's just I don't know. I don't know that you can take a whole lot from that. I think for the most part they've been very good, and I think they'll be good this week.
Well,
Slowing down the competition is definitely something that always happens, and I will say that Sean Clifford was noticeably not 100% at this game. You can kind of see him limping and grabbing his ribs. No, they never really disclosed what his injury was, but just watching, I was actually in the fourth row in the south end zone back in the corner. So I was, very close to the field. Actually, the winning touchdown was literally right in front of me. So that was interesting to see the player kind of shush the student section. But Sean Clifford was definitely not 100% in this game. I don't know how much of a difference that made, but he was clearly nursing whatever his injury was still that he sustained against Iowa. So maybe that played some role. Maybe he'll be better against Ohio State. But, I think it's worth mentioning that he was noticeably kind of limping around and not quite 100% from what I could tell.
Right. Yeah, and that was one of the question marks that I had was after the Iowa game, how long will it take him to actually get back to 100% and how limited he would be because he's the main catalyst for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. We haven't had really a running back since Saquon and then Miles Sanders. That was like the last running year, and Penn State has definitely been more of a passing offense this year. So, and he's played well. He's not by any means the best quarterback in NCAA, but he played respectable in his first 5 games until he got injured at Iowa. So
I think his impact is actually undervalued if you look at the way Penn State played without him.
Yeah. So, if he's 100% for Ohio State next week, if they play like they did the rest of the season and not like they did against Illinois, I think they'll give Ohio State a game. I think it'll be close. So I don't know if I agree with that 18.5 point spread. I think they're basing that on the team that played Illinois showing up next weekend.
And the team that played Indiana last weekend. I think that's the two teams that they're looking at.
Which, I guess maybe, since those are the most recent, but, as other Ryan said, a lot of times teams play down to their... It's not super uncommon for teams to play down to their competition. It happens every year.
Yeah, Cincinnati escaped Navy
every year, so...
on Saturday. Yeah. And even the next team that we're going to talk about after this has done it 4 or 5 times this year. But Ryan, before
every week.
Ryan, before we let you go, I just want to say thanks for stopping by and good luck on Saturday. Other Ryan, do you want to say anything to him before he heads out?
Yeah, that was some good analysis for sure. Yeah, so good luck with that game, or Paul will be mad at me for saying that, but
it'll be fun no matter what to watch. It's the 30th, so it's not Halloween night, but it's kind of Halloween night. It's Halloween all weekend at a college campus, let's be honest, so. All right, I'll see you guys.
See you, Ryan. So that was a pretty cool tidbit there. I want to thank my guy Ryan Daugherty for stopping by. Now, the next game we're going to talk about here, Ryan, is, like I said, a team that continues to play down to their competition. That's Oklahoma. They escaped Kansas with a 35-23 win. They improved to 8-0 on the season, which is impressive, but Kansas at 1-6 covers the 38.5 point spread. In the second half of this game, Kansas Athletics are tweeting out and posting on everywhere that you don't need a ticket to just come flood the stands. Like, if you're struggling against a team that can't fill their stadium, like, you got another week, Ryan, where we go by thinking about when's Oklahoma going to actually show their true colors, and what are their true colors right now?
It happened yet again.
Yeah.
That's just insane how they just keep doing this. They're hard to evaluate, honestly. I just have to say, did you see that play?
Yeah, I actually disagree with the call. I'm pretty sure the forward progress was stopped before the flip.
Dude, the play where Caleb Williams took the ball from the running back, and got the first down.
Yeah. The progress was stopped, was it not?
I'm not sure. I mean, it was a. I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
So, I wasn't sure how it would be ruled, but I was like, man, that was heads up.
Yeah, that was a great play by Caleb Williams, and maybe
I
the really
I
the
love Caleb Williams. He's an impressive player.
I agree, and but what this game kind of shows to me though here, Ryan, and the game even last week is maybe it wasn't really all on Rattler.
Well, definitely not all on him, but Williams has been a big improvement.
Yeah, yeah, and
Um,
they have maybe not this week, but after that they got a pretty nice stretch of games that's gonna really test them. So that I mean, they get through that gauntlet, they should be okay. Um, the next game we got a team that hopped in the rankings just to hop right back out, and that's Wisconsin defeating Purdue 30-13 on Saturday. Wisconsin covered the 3.5. I haven't seen Wisconsin score 30 like in what seems like forever. I didn't know the offense could do that. Purdue had a tight game with Notre Dame earlier in the year, and then they ended up beating Iowa, and then Wisconsin just did this to them. Like I
yeah,
almost want to say Wisconsin's like a pretty good football team, but
uh,
that's what I mean. It's
their
like,
defense is really good,
yeah,
but their offense is not very good.
yeah. And the next team is just like that, and that's Clemson, who lost to Pitt 27-17. Clemson drops to 4-3 on the year. Who would have thought we were saying that? Pitt improves to 6-1. They're ranked number 23 at the time. They covered the 3.5 point spread by winning by 10. Clemson defense once again looks pretty good, but their offense is just horrible. Like you were saying, they missed Etienne, Pittsburgh quarterback. Pretty sure his name's Pickett. Kenny Pickett. Also emerging in the Heisman.
Yes, yeah. So I had, as people know, I had Clemson. I was holding on to hope. I didn't have rankings last week, but 2 weeks ago I had them at 10 still. But I had to drop them out of my rankings finally because just can't give them the benefit of the doubt any longer.
Right, right. Now the next game is your game here. Oregon covered the 1 point spread here as they go to UCLA and hand it to the Bruins. The game ended up being decided by a score of 34-31, but number 10 Oregon moves to 6-1, and they got a pretty nice jump in the AP this week. But they went over the 61.5, but Oregon mostly dominated this game.
Yeah, funny story. Kind of going back to the Penn State Illinois game
Yeah,
that went to nine overtimes.
yeah,
That cut into our game, so we missed the first quarter.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, my grandpa was like about to have a stroke. Like he was not happy about this. But we were down. We were cheering like, "Come on, end this game finally!" And then it just another overtime. But we had a bad start. It was 14-0
Yeah,
UCLA, and then we got on fire. We went on a 34-3 run.
yeah,
Travis Dye had 4 touchdowns, and Anthony Brown was playing a great game. In fact, Kirk Herbstreit was saying that it was the best game he had played,
yeah,
and then he threw the 2 really bad interceptions, and then it came down again to our defense needing to stop them at the end, and it just
fell your way.
we always do it the hard way, It's just
Gritty team.
we can never just win a game, nice and easily.
Right.
But we have a amazing player, Kayvon Thibodeau.
Yeah.
He had an amazing game.
Yeah, he's the best player in the country to me.
Yeah, he's I think, whether you want to say a defensive end is the best player,
I did it. I said it when Chase Young was in college.
But yeah, if someone's that good, I think for his how good he is, he's not going to be like a Heisman finalist, but he might be a top 5 draft pick.
I think he's the number 1 overall pick right now.
I mean, Kuiper has him as the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
So he's a great player, and we needed him. We needed him to win that game. We probably needed him to win the Cal game.
Yeah.
Didn't need him to win the Ohio State game.
Yeah. Okay. You didn't need to rub that in. But actually, I just remembered an interesting fact about Oklahoma. That's gonna also why I didn't understand the reasoning between some of the rankings, but Oklahoma gave up 190 yards of offense before there was 8 minutes left in the second quarter to Kansas.
Hey, it's the Big 12. So
now the next game is not the Big 12, but we're seeing some decent high scores. Alabama beats Tennessee 52-24. Tennessee drops to 4-4. Alabama improves to 7-1. Alabama covers to 25. Vegas knows something we don't because Alabama was only winning by a touchdown in the fourth quarter in Tuscaloosa for this game. But I think this game is really proving to me that Georgia might just be better than Alabama this year. I don't think that's really a far take because Tennessee is not great by any means. I mean, and I kind of would have expected Alabama to run away with this game at home a lot earlier. I mean, Alabama proved to be way too strong for them, and the fourth quarter, I mean, after it was 31-24, they really, knocked the gates down. But I just don't see Georgia playing a one-score game with Tennessee through 3 quarters.
I think Georgia is clearly the best team. I'm not super confident that they will beat Alabama in the SEC championship just because of Saban's outstanding record against his former assistants.
Yeah.
So, and just in general, he's the best coach ever. So, but that's, looking ahead a little bit. But Georgia's defense is, maybe the best ever. Some are saying.
Right.
And Bama's, their defense isn't on that level, I don't think. Their offense is better than Georgia's offense, I think. More explosive.
I agree with you. On that.
I do love Georgia's running backs.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, the next game here is UTSA. Now, how disrespectful is this? UTSA was playing Louisiana Tech on Saturday. UTSA was favored by 5.5 points. They won 45-16.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out who UTSA is.
University of Texas, San Antonio.
Yes. So, that team is in the rankings, and Clemson is not.
Yeah.
Let that marinate.
Yeah. Now, the next game is another team that is playing Oklahoma football, which means it's playing close football. That's San Diego State. The Aztecs beat Air Force 20-14. San Diego State covered the 3-point spread, only winning by 6. But Air Force at 6-2. This was a pretty close-fought game. But San Diego State moving to 7-0. Good for them.
Yeah, they're climbing the rankings.
Yeah, they got a rock wall to climb compared to some of the ramps of these other teams, but yeah. Now, the ACC just likes to get your hopes up for one team and then just drops, and that's going to be NC State this week, falling to Miami, 31-30. Miami covered the 3.5. Obviously, number 14 overall, Miami. Oh wait, that's what people are getting credit for wins over, even though this team's 3-4. The Hurricanes beat the Wolfpack to give them their second loss on the year, leaving Wake and Pitt, the two front runners for the ACC. But yeah, kind of disappointing. Like, the other conferences can afford the beating up on each other, but I really don't think the ACC can afford that. They need dominant teams at the top right now.
Yeah, that's a tough loss.
Yeah.
ACC is just, they do not have it this year.
Yeah, they do not. In the next game, we got Texas A&M covering the 19.5. They played South Carolina 44-14. Nothing really out of the ordinary here. Kind of expected, right? We don't really need to go into detail on that. South Carolina, not a very good football team. Texas A&M, a decently pretty good football team, so this should happen.
Yeah.
So that's
for sure.
Nothing really out of the ordinary there. Now, the next game, Notre Dame covers a 7.5-point spread, and as they beat USC in a rivalry game 31-16, Notre Dame silently is 6-1 right now, with their only loss to Cincinnati.
Yeah, obviously they're a good team. Losing to Cincinnati kind of, took them off the radar, but they're not as good as they've been.
Right.
I think in previous years, but they're still respectable. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And as much as me and you probably don't want to believe it, they have a slim chance, but they need a lot of help.
To make the playoff?
Yeah, they need a lot of help. If say they finish 10 or 11-1, and their only losses to Cincinnati, they have an argument. Do you agree?
I don't see it happening.
I don't see it happening either, but I'm just saying, is the path there potentially?
They don't have a conference championship.
Good
possibility,
point.
Right?
Good point.
So
this team actually does, and that's Ole Miss. They're 6-1 behind Alabama. If Alabama loses again, this will be the team in the SEC championship. They beat LSU 31-17. Ole Miss covered the 9-point spread. This is the first time I've seen Ole Miss hold a team under 30 points, and I can't tell you how long. But LSU, man, I just feel like they came out flat without Orgeron. But Ole Miss definitely is looking better each week.
I thought Orgeron was there till the season ended.
He is, but that's why I'm saying, instead of coming out to play with, they're just all right, he's going anyway.
You're saying, yeah.
Yeah, so that's how I see with that. And the upset game, I guess that wasn't necessarily an upset. Tennessee offense is not very good, so. But Oklahoma State goes to Iowa State and gets upset 24-21. That was picked on the show last week. Iowa State was favored in that game. Oklahoma State covered the 7, but Iowa State wins. And I think that Iowa State is a pretty good team in the Big 12.
Yeah, I was high on them at the start of the season. And then they had a couple losses. But, they're still pretty good.
Well, Iowa State's losses are to Iowa,
Right.
And who is their other loss to? I want to say it's to Baylor, who's also pretty
I
good.
want to say that. Yeah. So
Tomlin is not going to USC. Never. I don't think he is either.
oh, he better not.
Yeah.
I hope USC just gets a terrible head coach. Like, if they get Urban Meyer or someone like that, I'm gonna be very upset.
Now the next game that people were somehow impressed of, Wake Forest beats unranked Army 70-56. Wake Forest covers the 3-point spread. This is not impressive to me. Your offense can score 70 points on an unranked team, but your defense didn't even come out of the locker room for this.
Yeah, and I tend to disagree with you on this kind of things. Like, because on one hand, like, yeah, you allowed a ton of points, but scoring 70, that's quite a achievement right there.
I agree,
And
but I think to be one of the top teams, you have to have a balance. Like, you can't just be horrible on one
yes,
side of the ball and expect to be respected as a top team. It's just not going to happen. And there's a lot
I
better
guess,
offenses out there than Army. Do you agree?
yeah. I guess I just don't consider Wake Forest as a top team.
Well, neither do
Yeah,
I, and this is one of the reasons why. But if I can go through my mentions now, and I see people saying that Wake Forest should have a path. But, I mean, they're 7-0 right now, and they're saying if Clemson played the same schedule, why aren't they? And that's why I say it matters how you win. Clemson in the past would win this game 70-10, not 70-56.
yeah. See, I think it matters how you win when it comes to picking playoff teams.
Right. Well, you don't think Wake
Um,
has if they go undefeated in the ACC?
I just no.
I agree with you. I'm just using the
Like,
counter side of it, of what people will say. Put it that way,
because
okay? But I'm on
you
your
would
side.
have. Well, you're gonna have uh, teams that are just so much obviously better. Um,
Why Oklahoma doesn't get the same treatment?
I just well, they're also Oklahoma, you know.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But I'm just not a
And it's
believer in Wake. Just put it that way. They could play for a New Year's Six bowl.
yeah,
That's where I think that the epitome of Wake Forest football is, like, what they should strive for. But the thing is, if
hmm
they're probably not going to play a team like Army if they get a New Year's Six bowl. They're more likely to play and Penn State or somebody like that,
hmm
and that team will be better than Army.
and none of their starters will be playing in said bowl.
Yeah, that's also true.
So,
Big issue. Now, the last game on the Saturday slate was the Saturday night game. Ohio State covers the 21-point spread as they embarrass Indiana at home, 54-7. Ohio State moves to 6-1. Indiana drops to 2-5. Ryan, may I remind you that this team just won by 47, and Iowa is getting a ranked win over Indiana on their resume right now.
right, yeah, I know that's a major beef that you have,
Is it a
and
full beef or no?
no, no, I don't know that it's like you're absolutely right, but I don't know that it's as meaningful as you might
Well,
want to
I think
believe.
so. Well, let me ask you this. I saw a post by Fox College Football said Georgia has 4 ranked wins on the schedule. All right, only team with 4 ranked wins. Clemson, what are they ranked?
Yeah,
What are they ranked?
but
They're not. Who else are they getting? Arkansas. What are they ranked? They're not. Kentucky. I mean, they're pretty decently ranked. They're not are they in the top 15? Maybe. Maybe. And then what's after that? Let's see. Who's the other team? Is it Auburn? Like, what are they ranked now? They have 2-3 losses too. So like the inflating, and this is where I think college football is the most brainwashed fans. Has the most brainwashed fans at all, because there's context behind that. Like me and you were just talking about. Iowa says, "Oh, we got ranked wins over this." Iowa State and Indiana, those are not. I mean, Iowa State's now in the rankings, but Indiana is not a ranked win to me. That does not count. Beating Clemson now, Pitt just did that. Are they going to get a ranked win for it? No, they're not, and that's not fair. The ranked win should not count till the end of the season. And yeah. I think you should get credit, Ryan. Say, if you're, Penn State and you lose to Illinois, what if Illinois ends up in the rankings at the end of the year? I think that should count as that. Or you beat a team that could be unranked. I'd rather it count at the end of the year as a team that's ranked. Because you should be getting credit for how good a team is, not how good you think they are at the beginning of the year. Alabama getting a ranked win over Miami is a joke. The same with Michigan State getting a ranked win over Miami. That's a joke. That's a losing football team.
Yeah, but what does that actually mean? Like,
comparing resumes matters. So, like, the whole weight that people were having Iowa over Ohio State is Ohio State's played one ranked team, and what is it? They haven't played it. Iowa has 2 ranked wins. Both of those teams weren't even in the rankings anymore before the Penn State game.
But, like, in the case of Georgia, they're number one, not because they have.
Jeez, I did not realize that. Yeah, I mean, I think it carries weight, but I did not realize that. Wow.
Yeah.
Other Ryan just dropped a bomb in the Twitch chat. Now, let me tell you this. Indiana's front part of their schedule. So how bad do you think Indiana is? Do you think they're good or do you think they're bad?
I mean, they're not very good.
Did you know that in their first 7 games, I'm going to read off 5 of the teams, the 5 losses they have, okay? Iowa, Cincinnati, Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan State.
Yeah, it's a brutal conference.
And their out of conference just happened to be Cincinnati this year.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Like, that is, outside of those 5, they've won their 2 games.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even realize that. Like, I'm not even trying to just knock Indiana, but, like, they shouldn't be ranked, even if they played those 5 teams. Like, but that is brutal, is it not?
Yeah, but the point I'm trying to make is, like, how much actually do ranked wins, like, how much weight does that carry?
I think it carries a lot of weight.
I don't know, because, I mean...
You know what else I think should carry a lot of weight?
Like, take Georgia. Are they number 1 because of 4 ranked wins? Well, no, not really. They're number 1 because of their defense, and, like...
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't know that it's...
Let me ask you this. What's the point that Fox is trying to make by making that post?
Well, I mean, everything doesn't have to have a point. I mean, it's just a fun fact,
Sure. I mean, we didn't even end up talking about Ohio State this whole time, but they won by 47, and they absolutely dominated. Indiana's best 2 corners were hurt, and that just could not have been worse timing.
Yeah.
Next up, we got our rankings. So, I went ahead and I dropped Coastal Carolina to 24, same with the AP. BYU found its way back in the rankings for the AP. Might have been for you as well.
Mm-hmm.
SMU's all the way up to 16 for me. I dropped Wake Forest one, actually, for the way they played.
Where do you have them?
21.
Okay, I've got them at 15.
Yeah, and the AP has them at 14, or at 13. And I just don't think they're that great. I think Oklahoma State beats Wake Forest. I think Iowa State beats Wake Forest. I think Texas A&M beats Wake Forest.
Maybe, but they are undefeated, so you gotta give them their credit.
Yeah, and we all three had Oregon at 7 across the board. I actually still have Iowa ahead of Michigan State right now by 1 point, by 1 part. Ole Miss was my biggest mover. I moved them up 7 spots. They look pretty legit to me on that.
You said you have Iowa ahead of Michigan State
By 1 spot, yeah. I have Iowa at 8, Michigan State at 9. Because Michigan
I find
State.
that kind of interesting.
Well,
Yeah.
the thing is, like I was going to say, a lot of thing that carries weight to me is common opponents.
Mm-hmm.
And Iowa just beat that Indiana team 34-6, and Michigan State won 20-15 last week. So I kind of carry some weight into that. Ohio State and Cincinnati now have a common opponent in Indiana. The Bearcats won 38-24. The Buckeyes won 54-7. So that's that. A lot of these teams are going to have common opponents, and that is a big sign to me. I pay attention to that very, very closely. Cincinnati and Oklahoma will have a common opponent after this week. Cincinnati plays Tulane. If you remember, the Sooners beat Tulane Green Wave 40-35 earlier this year. And then in a couple weeks, Ohio State and Oklahoma will have a common opponent in Nebraska that Oklahoma beat 23-16.
Gotcha.
So, but I don't hate having Michigan State ahead of Iowa. It's not a bad pick.
So, well, we've already talked about Penn State quite a bit.
Yeah.
But, I mean, clearly we both think the AP is very low.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely do. And I think Baylor is a really good football team. I have them at 14. I'm pretty high on Baylor. I think Baylor beats Wake Forest.
Yeah, I really from like, I don't know, 14 to 20 or so. Like, I didn't really know how to order these teams.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I understand that. Rankings will really shake up after this week. I think we were talking about that. Another team on the rise that came back into my top 10 is Notre Dame. Notre Dame at 11 in the AP, 12 for you, 10 for me. They're mostly done, but I mean, the only thing that I was going to ask you about rankings is the actual college football playoff rankings come out next Tuesday, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering what all shakes up, because you have to see, first off, we don't know who's going to be where exactly. We kind of have a general idea, but Cincinnati plays Tulane this week. Now, if you look at other games this week that could matter, Ohio State plays Penn State. Michigan plays Michigan State this week. Does there potential of Michigan moving up after beating Michigan State if they beat them?
Into the top 4?
Well, the AP has Michigan 6, Ohio State 5 right now. So I'm wondering if Michigan beats Michigan State, no matter what Ohio State does, if they will jump them.
Possibly.
But the thing for me
I
is,
think it might matter how convincing the win is.
right. Right, I agree. I gotta agree. And so now is a good time to do it because other Ryan saying in chat, Now, his college football playoff predictions of 4 teams, and I think we agreed with this on the way back, and I still am going to agree with it. I think Alabama isn't better than Georgia, but I think Georgia is going to have a slip-up maybe in the SEC championship, and I think Alabama will be able to beat them, or they'll just be better than them. And my 4 teams going to the playoff is, in no order, Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, and Cincinnati. And his are Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama. Oh, that's just the first rankings? So he thinks the first rankings is going to be Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama in that order. Could you agree with that? But I don't agree with that because I think Oklahoma. The committee loves Oklahoma. They're going to do anything they can to keep the Big 12 in there. There's no chance to me that Oklahoma is lower than 3. I have a $5 bet on it that Oklahoma will be between 1 and 3. Obviously not 1, but I think they'll be between 2 or 3 and be ahead of Ohio State. No matter what.
Now, we're talking initial...
Yes, initial rankings.
Not fine.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think Oklahoma will probably be in there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's making a pretty good point. He says, I think they put Michigan in there for that initial ranking because they can correct it later. But here's how I think the rankings are going to be. If I can predict what they're going to look like next week, here's what I see. I think number 1 is going to be Georgia. 2 is going to be Alabama. 3 is going to be Oklahoma. 4 is going to be Ohio State. 5 is going to be Michigan. And 6 is going to be Cincinnati.
So, you don't think Cincinnati will be in there?
No, I think they're going to get hosed.
I would like to see them get in there, but yeah, it's going to be tough.
And I think Alabama's going to be 2 because they're going to keep on pushing for that 1 versus 2 matchup in the SEC championship to where even if one loses, I think if Alabama loses and gets a second loss, they won't be in there. But there's absolutely no way in my mind, no matter what Ohio State does to Penn State, as long as Oklahoma wins, Oklahoma will be in front of Ohio State. Now if we want to move on to our Heisman rankings, Ryan. Number 1 for me is actually going to be Kenneth Walker from Michigan State. 2, Desmond Ridder from Cincinnati. 3 is Bijan Robinson from Texas. 4, Travion Henderson, Ohio State. 5, Bryce Young, Alabama. And looking across the board at yours, pretty similar to last week. We got Desmond Ridder at Cincinnati leading the pack. C.J. Stroud from Ohio State following right behind. Matt Corral, Ole Miss, in the 3 spot. Bryce Young, Alabama, coming up at number 4. And Bijan Robinson from Texas at number 5.
Yeah, I was very much considering putting Walker in there. You have a number 1.
I do. He has 997 rushing yards already.
And I think given that they haven't lost, that will work in his favor in comparison to Robinson.
Yeah.
But so I mean I can see that. I love Bijan Robinson, dude. So
yeah.
I'm putting him in there.
And we were actually talking about this guy for a little bit. Other Ryan said robbing Kenny Pickett. We were talking about him a little bit. I think he's been pretty good, but I kind of want to see more. And as bad as it sounds, because it doesn't really matter, the school you play for kind of matters when it comes to the Heisman. Like, if you look at who wins the Heisman, they're not really from a middle-of-the-pack school. I mean, Pitt's been pretty good, but look at the name of those schools that we have up here. Besides Ritter.
That's not something that really happens.
Oh, you were just joking about him. But, yeah, I mean, he has been pretty good. I'm not going to act like he's been bad, but just I don't think he's in the Heisman race for me or other Ryan. And now, Ryan, we got our predictions. I'm sitting at 42 and 32, and you're at 39 and 29. So we're both 10 picks, give or take. And this is a pretty interesting week, so I'm going to go ahead and start getting into the picks. Thursday, We have Troy at Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina favored by the 18.5 point spread. I'm going to take Coastal to bounce back, but I don't know if they cover.
I'll take the cover.
Okay. So the next game we got is Penn State at Ohio State with the 18.5 point spread. This game kickoff is at 7:30. I'm going to pick Ohio State to win, but not cover.
I agree.
That's a steep for a ranked matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I mean, you and I were both surprised by that.
Yeah.
I asked you what you expected. You said didn't you say 8?
Yeah, I said 8.5.
And I thought, I mean, 10, maybe 12 at the most. So, I mean, this is I think, and we've talked about this, but I mean, I think they're being kind of short-sighted with this.
I also agree with that. Next game, we got Michigan at Michigan State, number 6 versus number 8, and this kicks off at noon. This is a humongous game for college football playoff, Big Ten, really college football in general. Michigan on the road favored by 4.5.
Yeah, so I just was picking my games in the app, and I just felt like there were a bunch of potential upsets here this week, and this is one that I'm picking. I'm picking Michigan State.
Okay.
It is at Michigan State, correct?
Yeah, it is.
And I think I made the point a few weeks back that Michigan, they seem to underperform once they have actual expectations.
Yeah.
I think this could be one such instance, and we have your leading Heisman guy that they have to contend with.
Yeah, but the good thing for Michigan, for them, is their defense has always been, their bread and butter. This is a statement game for kind of both teams because, people aren't really sure to buy into either one of these schools yet.
Yeah.
But either way, this game doesn't really hurt Ohio State, if you really think about it, because they play both of them.
Yeah, I think that's true, but I mean, the Ohio State Michigan, that's a different kind of game.
Yep.
And
I'll be there.
Michigan is right, yeah. And if Michigan's highly rated, that's a special.
Yeah, and they're already 6.
Game.
So
if that's a top 5 game, it could be.
It could be, yeah. I'm gonna pick Michigan to win, which I really hate saying, but it's just a feeling. I mean, I almost really want to take Michigan State in this game, but I'm just gonna counter you, really, and pick Michigan to win.
We need content.
We need the content. Now, how about this one? Miami at Pitt. Pitt favored by 9. I mean, I don't know how many people are going to be watching this game on ACC Network in the time slot with these other games going on. But give me Pitt and pick it.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be hard to, because Oregon plays at 12:30.
3:30 for me, yeah.
Right, so I'm probably going to not see a whole lot of the
morning game
Michigan State game.
Well, the Michigan State game starts at noon for me.
Oh, okay. I thought it started at noon for me.
No, noon for me.
Okay, that's good.
So you'll have plenty of time. Is that a 9 a.m. start time for you?
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah, those drive me nuts. But who is that? There's a big game at noon though, isn't there? My time.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go through the rest of them right now. I think we're both taking Pitt. to win and cover?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Next game at noon is Texas and Baylor.
Yeah.
Baylor 6-1. I think they beat Texas. I think Baylor. You could say this is a dumb take here, but I honestly think Baylor could potentially be the best team in the Big 12. They're very good. And favored by 3, I think they win and cover over Texas.
I picked Texas.
Okay. For Bijan?
Yeah, I mean, I've said it on here before. Like, I like Texas. I believe in their talents. And I think they just are not very experienced at this point.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say that their talent will pull through and win this game for them.
Yeah. And the next game in the noon slot, we got Cincinnati at Tulane. Cincinnati favored by 24.5. I think they went and blow the spread apart. Tulane 1-6, Cincinnati 7-0. They know that they had a close game last week, and they're going to answer. They have to,
Mm-hmm.
and especially with a common opponent with Oklahoma that only beat this team by 5, they're going to try to blow the doors off of this team.
I agree.
And I think they will. Now
What's
here's
the spread again?
24.5.
That's pretty. I mean, I don't know. That seems pretty good to me.
Yeah. Now here's the last game of the noon slot. You got Iowa at Wisconsin.
Ooh,
So that's tough. That should be pretty.
that's a rock fight.
Yeah, the over/under is 36.5.
I was gonna say.
Imagine playing at a game and your team is only supposed to score 18 points. Wisconsin is favored in this game by 3.
Are they really?
They are, yeah.
That's surprising.
Yeah.
Is it not? I mean,
It's very surprising. But then again, I could also see Wisconsin winning this game.
yeah.
I'm picking
don't
Iowa,
believe their
though.
offense.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah.
I'm taking Iowa. That's an interesting game, though. I wouldn't... The over-under at 36.5. Are you taking the over or the under?
I'm in the under.
The under on a 36.5. That's insane.
It's just
I just see it.
it's just a case of. I mean, their defenses are great, and their offenses are not so good.
Yeah.
It's both, you know.
Yeah. I agree. Next game, we got Iowa State starting off the 2 p.m. slot at West Virginia, where Iowa State's favored by 7. This also has upset potential to me.
That's an interesting game.
I'm going to take Iowa State to win, though, but I think it has upset potential.
Yeah, I agree.
No, the
I
next...
guess I'll take
Yeah, go ahead.
cover.
You're taking the cover? Okay, that's fair. Brees Hall, I've been high on him for a while.
Yeah, he was a guy in my very first Heisman rankings.
Yeah, and he made his way into mine.
I'm a very big fan of his as well.
Right. And next game also kind of doesn't have upset potential, but I think that this could be one of the bigger. This is such a weird team to judge. Georgia at Florida. Georgia favored by 14. I could see this game being decently close.
Yeah, Georgia, Florida. I mean, that's
Yeah, and it's
feel
at
like-
Florida too, in the swamp.
yeah, that could be closer than people think. I
Yeah.
think the 14 is pretty appropriate.
Yeah. I mean, that's also just there's a lot of those games where you're just like that could definitely, I could see that definitely going, not as, cutthroat or straight,
Yeah.
as clear cut is what I'm looking for.
Yeah, Florida's, I mean, they're just, inconsistent. I mean, they almost beat Alabama, and then they
Lose to
go
Kentucky.
lose to,
Kentucky
yeah,
and
I mean,
LSU.
LSU was the other one, yeah.
They have 3 losses.
Who was the other loss?
Florida's third loss. So what their first 2 were to who? LSU and who was the other one we said? Kentucky?
Yeah, I think that's correct.
Yeah, that is correct. Florida was number 10 at the time for that Kentucky loss. So they lost to Alabama, Kentucky, and LSU.
Okay,
So not
yeah.
great.
But, I mean, there isn't a bad loss there.
LSU's not really. It was 49 to
But at LSU,
42.
right? I mean,
Yeah, but
that's not
they gave
good
up
by
50
any
points.
stretch. But, I mean, there's not exactly a
Yeah, I agree.
game, and
I agree that there's no like Bowling Green loss on the resume.
yeah.
I don't know. That's an interesting game. I'll take Georgia though still. Another game, bad matchup here for Texas Tech. They're playing Oklahoma at Oklahoma. Oklahoma's favored by 20. Texas Tech is 5-3, but Texas hung 70 up on this team.
Is the over under like 95?
67.
That's lower than I might have expected.
Yeah, I think I'd take the over on this. Would you
And
also
what's
take the over?
Yeah. And what's the spread again?
20.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
They lost
oh man.
70 to 35 to Texas. So Texas Tech's 3 losses are to Texas, TCU, and Kansas State.
Yeah, not great.
Right.
But I don't know.
They got an absolute brutal next month, by the way. They got Oklahoma this week, then they play Iowa State, then they play Oklahoma State, then they end out with Baylor.
That is tough.
That's very tough.
I don't know. I'd love to pick Oklahoma to cover, but there's no way I'm doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. That is completely fair. And the next game...
Every week I've been on here, I've been like, this is the week, and it just never is. So
Watch them win by 40 this week.
yeah, I'm trying to like reverse psychology type of thing.
Yeah, yeah. Now, next up, we got your game, Colorado, 2-5, at Oregon. Oregon favored by 24.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, Colorado's not really a great football team. They played a 10-7 game with Texas A&M, though. Does that mean anything to you? It should.
Yeah, that was a weird game.
Yeah, and then Colorado also lost to Nebraska 30-0. So, like, which Colorado team shows up, or what? Which Oregon team shows up?
Well, Oregon has been kind of like Oklahoma in that we were kind of scraping by all the time. So
yeah, I
would
can
be.
see it.
I mean, I would be surprised if we covered.
Yeah, Oklahoma doesn't have a win over Ohio State, though.
Right, but I mean, we're deep enough into the season now.
Right.
And like every conference game for us is just like, oh man, way tougher than it needs to be.
Right. Right. Now the next game. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Break out. Yeah, I really hope we break out and just cover the spread, but I don't see it.
Right. I think they will. I don't believe in Colorado. Next game, we got Duke at Wake Forest. Wake Forest favored by 16.5. The over-under on this game is 70. Duke's 3-4 going to Wake Forest. I mean, I guess Wake Forest should win. Duke is a basketball school. I guess Oklahoma playing Kansas, that didn't matter because that's also a basketball school. But not a big believer in Wake, but even more of a non-believer in Duke. Give me Wake Forest, I guess. I'm going to take them not to cover the 16.5.
Isn't Wake a basketball school also? Like, what's up with this?
I mean, if you want to say so, I guess.
But, yeah, I mean, I don't know. This is a game that Wake Forest should cover.
They scored 70 on their own last week.
And, I mean, I'll take it.
Now, next game's kind of interesting here. Upset alert again. My upset pick of the week. I guess it's not an upset because they're favored. Ole Miss at Auburn. Auburn favored by 3 in the 7 p.m. slot. This is a pretty interesting game here.
I picked Auburn.
Yeah, I also was picking Auburn with Matt Corral going up against the stubborn Auburn Tigers defense. This would kind of hurt the SEC if Auburn wins. Because then you got every other team with 2 losses besides Alabama, Georgia, and Kentucky's going to play Alabama soon, so I'm assuming they're going to lose that. So, like...
I'm not surprised Auburn favored, but I'm picking them anyway.
Yeah. Now, the next game here is pretty interesting. SMU at Houston. Houston favored by 1. Number 19 SMU, Tanner Mordecai. 7-0 at Houston. Favored by 1 is Houston. I think I'm going to take SMU. They looked really good last week to me.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm not going to pretend to know a ton about either of these teams, but I don't really understand why Houston is favored, given SMU's, undefeated, and they have a Heisman guy now, so.
Right. Next game is Kentucky at Mississippi State. Mississippi State is giving Kentucky 1.5. This is an unranked team. For 12, Kentucky.
Wow,
that's crazy.
Dude, there's some weird lines this week.
Yeah, very weird. I'm going to take Kentucky to win because I just watched Mississippi State lose by 40. I know this team beat Texas A&M, but once again, I actually probably wouldn't be that surprised if Mississippi State wins this game. Mississippi State lost to Memphis, though, so, like...
Give me Kentucky. I mean,
That's
they're
what I
a
was
good
thinking,
team.
too. Yeah, that's what
They're
I
a
was
good
thinking,
team.
too.
I mean, they're not great by any means, but I think they're good. I mean, I'm giving them. I was slow to buy in, but
I'm
think
still
they're
not really
pretty good.
bought. Like, I'm just inspecting them right now still. Haven't made my
I
decision.
mean, I buy them as like a top 15 team.
That's fair. What about this next team that's ranked number 15? Oklahoma State is hosting Kansas. Now, Kansas got Oklahoma and Oklahoma State back-to-back weeks. 1-6 Kansas at 6-1 Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State favored by 30.5.
30.5 seems like a lot, but I don't know. What do you think?
I think they win and cover. I mean, maybe not cover, but pretty close to. I think they dominate. I don't think Kansas is a very good football team.
Kansas used up all their magic already.
Yeah. I mean, if they had it, they're 1-6.
Well, they were playing. They gave Oklahoma all they could handle.
Yeah, but so did Nebraska, so did Texas,
So did
so did West
everyone.
Virginia, so you know what I mean? Like, so did everybody that played
Yeah.
them, I guess.
But I mean, Kansas, like, is Kansas, so I don't know.
You know that Oklahoma beat Kansas last year 55-3 or 53-3, like it was over a 50-point win.
Hmm.
I don't argue for
Yeah.
that Oklahoma team not to be that good. I'm talking about that team that played last week. Anyway, North Carolina at Notre Dame. This also has some upset potential to me. Notre Dame favored by 3.5. North Carolina sitting at 4-3 at Notre Dame 6-1. I'm gonna pick Notre Dame to win, but I could also see this being an upset.
Yeah, I like Sam Howell, or Carolina's quarterback. He's pretty good,
Yeah,
but I think, I mean, Notre Dame should be able to get this done. I mean,
I agree.
I, yeah,
Then the
I mean,
10-15 and 10-30 games. Very hard, weird games. 6-2 Virginia at 6-2 BYU. BYU favored by 2.5. Give me BYU.
yeah, yeah, I picked them as well.
Now here's an upset pick. I got Fresno State beating San Diego State this week.
Yes, I picked that as well.
Yeah, San Diego State favored by 1. Um, but yeah,
So we're yeah, we're definitely seeing some upsets.
yeah. Now I guess I could get made fun of this, Ryan, because I wanted to hype up this week as much as possible. But just gonna give you some content, and I'm gonna say I think Florida upsets Georgia this week.
Okay. Well, good luck with that one.
I mean, I really can't get bolder than that, right?
Mm, I don't know. Maybe like picking the over on Wisconsin, Iowa.
Yeah, I know, right? Jeez, man. Well, all right. I think that's gonna be it for the show. You got anything else to say?
I don't think so.
This is actually
Um,
my last show for a week. Everybody, I'm actually going to be having my baby this week, so CJ is going to fill in for me next Tuesday, hopefully alongside Ryan if he's down. If he can't make it, that's perfectly fine too. But just want to say thank you to everybody, including our sponsors, Act Up Athletics. Get your jersey needs anywhere there. Um, and besides that, I really think that's going to do it.
but yeah, man. Congrats on that, and
Thank you.
hopefully we can hold it down next week. I should be able to be here, so
Okay. Sounds good, man. And that's going to be